Hello, hello. Please be seated. Thank you. This is the second part of the evening tonight, and tonight we're going to where are we? Have a critique and results of the portrait image number 3, and I'll get Janine to introduce the speaker.
Thank you. Yeah, so Shah has lives in Christchurch, which is a revelation, and it's wonderful. So she's here tonight. So welcome to. Was it not on? Hello. Yep, I wasn't speaking too close to it. So yeah, welcome to the club, and thank you for coming along tonight. And a really big thank you for all your work and effort towards the judging that you've done. So I have a bio to read out of Shah. So just a wee bit of information about the judge, about about you. So just so we sort of know some of her history and experience. So Shah has had over 25 years experience as a photographer. Her career in photography began in the 1990s, working as a Kodak Mini Lab technician, producing film. Given a camera one again to play with by her boss, changed her career path and the way that she saw the world forever. Previously, a sought-after wedding photographer, based on her Central City studio, Shah is now primarily a portrait photographer of dogs and people who love them, running bespoke lighting and posing workshops and exploring her own personal projects, creating contemporary fine art images. Shah Devine is well recognised in the professional photography world, especially in New Zealand. Her NZIPP Master with Distinction and multiple IRIS Awards show a consistent commitment to quality, education and peer recognition. Her recent successes in creative portrait and animal categories and the NZIPP Photography Awards shows her versatility as a photographer as she competes in these more artistic and stylised categories. Internationally, Shah also holds the distinction of associate with Portrait Masters in the USA. Shah has been a judge across multiple categories for the NZIPP IRIS Awards for the last 3 years, a consultant and judge for the North Shore Photography Salon, and a judge for the International Pet Photography Awards. All further testaments to the trust and respect she holds within the New Zealand and international photographic community. And we're just going to start running through now the judging and the images. Thank you.
I'd just like to start by saying a really big thank you to everyone that put their work forward to be judged. It's never an easy thing to want to put your work forward in front of all your friends and peers. So congratulations to everyone who submitted work. Good on you, and keep it up. It's the best way to learn and grow as a photographer. Okay, so this is a gentle portrait of this young girl being lost in thought. The image is well lit, but would have benefited from a bit more detail in her hair at the top of the image. The crop is very, very tight, and there are distracting bright areas to the left and the right of her that need to be addressed. This image was very enjoyable in terms of its wistfulness. The side lighting has created some drama and contrast to the image. More space at the top would have been very beneficial given the nature of the chaos of the young person's hair. The subject is really well engaged with the photographer. Be mindful of your focus as the image is not sharp. Ensure that eye catch lights are present in both of the eyes, as one is significantly darker than the other, particularly the one on the right. Attention to detail will help elevate your images, especially looking at small white flecks on the lower part of the face and marks on the clothing. Great connection between the photographer and this beautiful dog. The location with the colour and the grasses mimicking those in the dog's coat. Moving subjects are really tricky and you really need to nail that focus. The collar is quite distracting around the neck, which could be removed in post-production. It looks like it's coming out of the dog's mouth rather than around its neck. The detail in the fur is also lost around the chest area of the dog, which a little bit of dodging and burning would have helped in that area. Try giving the dog a little bit more space to move, extend the background to the left and tilt the dog in the frame just a little bit more so it's more balanced. He's kind of on a little bit of a lean, but he's got a great expression, so well done. This would have been a really interesting event to capture. This is a very tight crop, and with the night in the foreground being largely out of focus and obscuring the opponent, it's really hard to get a sense of the action and the concept of what a dueling event would look like. Perhaps look at your positioning. If it was shot on the side, we would get more of a sense of the action and the interaction between the two knights. Events such as medieval tournaments are rich in colour and pageantries, which may have given the image more impact and story had it been in colour. This image, great choice of location. It's bright and dynamic, but with the pose and the crop, it's difficult to establish the connection between the two. With portraits, be careful showing too much white of the eyes, as it can be distracting and it can almost give the effect of the eyes not looking natural. The shoulder and the armpit are dominating the lower part of the image. The lighting needs to be darker in this area and more fill in her face to balance the lighting and the skin tones. This is a very interesting portrait of this man, and his face shows a life well lived. Unfortunately, the file is of very poor quality and the background is very distracting, particularly with the line of the garden material cutting through the back of his head. So I'm not sure if it was an upload issue that you might have had with this file, but it was just very pixelated. When someone is sitting in a chair, try get them to lean perhaps on the arm of the chair and lean towards the camera for a little bit more engagement, and to try and sort of establish what that story is that you're trying to convey to your viewer. Perhaps the use of a reflector would have been great to put a little few catch lights into the eyes and to lighten and liven the face. A humorous moment that's been well captured. The black and white conversion works really well here and it's been well handled. The crop is very tight and there are elements in the background that are very distracting. Always analyze your backgrounds before taking your shot to see if they add anything to the story of the image. A very sharp image. It's been well executed. The image, the message that the image is trying to convey is perhaps not quite clear. Try exploring ideas around creativity that have some kind of emotional impact or original composition. But a very nice, standard portrait of this man. Well done at holding the attention of this lovely animal. The face shows some good detail. There are some bright highlights where the detail has been lost around the nose and the right cheek. The straw attached to the face is a little bit distracting. There is a line in the background that cuts through the back of the animal's neck. Perhaps a lower shooting position would help with that. So just give your portrait just a little bit more room to breathe. Either go in really tight or come back a little bit and give it a little bit more room. This is a very sweet capture. The child is well connected with the photographer. The image is a little bit static for a usual bath time, which is full of lots of bubbly fun. With no other references in the bubbles, the head has an appearance of floating, which gives it quite a disconnected feel. The shadow on the top of the child's head could also be lightened a little bit to put a little bit more detail in there to make the lighting a little bit more consistent. The bright colours that frame this image are and the bright colours that frame the image are in focus, but unfortunately the child's face is not. So you've really got to nail that focus with your portrait work. It's just clip the top of the hat here. You can see that there's quite some detail in the hat, but not in the little girl's face. Really practice honing that skill, and your images will improve dramatically. This is a very well lit portrait of this gentleman. The crop again is very, very tight. It would be good to see a bit more of his surroundings to get more of a sense of context and perhaps show more of his personality or his environment. There's a colour cast through his hair that needs addressing, and some cloning of the blemishes on his skin would also help elevate the image. This is the quirky facial expression captured here, and the child has connected really well with the photographer. The black and white treatment has worked really well and is appropriate for a little portrait of this nature. There is some ghosting at the bottom of the image on the right hand side that needs addressing. It could be lens flare as well. So try using a reflector if you can to fill in and soften the shadows in the face if you're not au fait using flash, and just addressing those bright highlights where you've lost the detail, particularly on the forehead and on the cheeks. Again, great connection between the subject and the photographer. The eyes show wonderful life with catch lights, and the subject has been really appropriately well lit. The brightness of the exposed area on the shoulder to the left of the image is distracting, and the heaviness of the black clothing to the right draws you away from the intensity of her gaze. So just experiment a little bit more with your posing and competition and styling for your images. But you're on the right track. The focus in this image has been well captured, and good use of depth of field to get some detail in those wonderful eyes of the cat. The crop again is very tight, and I would suggest giving the subject a little bit more room to breathe, especially including the ears and those magnificent whiskers, because they're obviously going to be quite long and they're kind of a little bit lost with being sort of cut off at the ends. If the eyes are going to be the center of your image, they need to be engaged with the photographer looking right down the barrel of the lens. So there are some small details that could also be easily corrected, just those stray fur hairs over the eyes and good old eye boogers that cats and dogs get, and humans. I found this was a very interesting portrait with the use of bold colour in the styling. The area to the subject's left at the back of the image is distracting, as well as the lightness of the fabric underneath her arm at the bottom. The use of the vertical scratch texture that has been overlaid on the image has dragged the skin and has not added anything positively to the image by making her skin look drawn. The eyes are not both in focus, and there's a yellow-green colour cast around her hairline, neck and décolletage. The left-hand shoulder is dominating the image and unbalancing the composition. So just look at ways of dropping that shoulder to give some space between her neck and the chin, but keep working on this idea, because I think you're onto something here. It just needs a little bit of finessing. This is a well-composed image, appropriate styling for the location. The subject is really, really well lit and engaged with the photographer. Sometimes less is more, and the blurring effect here has been a wee bit overdone, and the skin tones are uneven. It's made the skin tones uneven and a little bit lumpy in places. So really nail that focus, but I really feel like you're on the right track. So just keep working along this line, and just make sure that when you're adding treatments like that, that they are appropriate and not overdone. This is a very interesting portrait of this beautiful tribeswoman. For a portrait to be more successful, there's several things that you need to consider. The crop is very, very tight and has cut off her limbs and hair. The lighting has created bright hot spots on her face and her teeth, and her body language looks a little bit uncomfortable by the way she's looking up. So, and perhaps some engagement with the photographer would have helped here. This is a really strong graphic image. It's been well exposed, and the black and white treatment has worked really well. Cloning of the white spots on the figure would have been an easy fix to help create some cohesion and not provide a distraction. The lighting is very flat, which gives it a one-dimensional feel, and I'd really encourage you to revisit this at different times of the day and with different lighting and depth of field and shooting from different angles. This will lessen the distractions in the background and to convey the message of shadow that the image title alludes to. So the bright area to the right pulls you away from the figure. So yeah, it's a really cool graphic image, but yeah, just pop back and and revisit it and just try some different angles with that one. This is a well-composed image. The background bokeh is really well handled, as are the skin tones. The post-production, just needs a little bit of attention, as you can see where the flyaway hairs have been edited around the top of the image, particularly in the part of her hair. Try getting the catch lights a little bit higher in the eye as well, sort of more above the iris than below. You're on the right track. It's just that attention to detail to be mindful of. Really enjoyed the intensity of the gaze of the cat in this image. The side lighting has worked really well, and the detail in the fur has been well handled. The shadow areas, however, on the body of the cat have been lost in the background, giving the cat a disjointed appearance. It looks like, you know, we've lost aspects of its body. The image would be much stronger too if the detail could be brought up in some of those areas. This image has been well thought out and well styled. The lighting is even with good eye catch lights. The flyaway hairs just need some attention, and the softening treatment on the face also needs work as well, as it has given an unevenness and an unnatural feel to the skin. This looks over softened and over processed, and there's quite a disparity between her face and her neck. So if you're going to use a treatment like that, then it needs to be cohesive. This is a solid portrait. The subject is well lit and the image is very, very sharp. For a portrait like this, I would just tidy up the eyebrow hairs that are covering over the eye so it's nice and clear. There is an area below the left eye that has lost detail that needs attention. The skin tones are uneven, red in some areas and yellow in others, and some highlights above the right eye that could also do with a little bit of finessing. This is a really gentle image of this young person. The lighting is been well handled, and the child is well connected with the photographer. Again, the image is very cropped very tightly, and there's an distracting blue element in the background to the left. More emotional story would really help elevate this image, give it more of a sense of who this little person is and what their background is, what anything that sort of connects to their heritage or their perhaps their history. So just sometimes adding a little bit more gives the viewer a bit more of a story. Well, you can almost hear the baby in this one, can't you? This a great black and white treatment, but it's a little bit flat, and I could just would benefit from a little bit more contrast. The expression has been well captured. The exposure needs to be brought down a little bit as the brightness draws you away from the baby's expression, and particularly in its clothing. The crop is very tight again, especially on the right-hand side, and the domes on the baby's outfit could be straightened because it's actually drawing your eye out of the image. There's a bright highlight between the baby's arm and the shoulder, and a little cleanup of the baby's skin would also help elevate the image. Some white flecks that are on his nose and chin and cheeks. So just those little attention to detail things. A very strong and slightly humorous composition with great use of light. The focus appears to be a little bit soft in this image, resulting in the loss of feather detail. The bright highlight on the back of the genet, knee highlights on the back of the genet, just needs some attention as it draws you away from the connection between the two. The background has been really well handled with no distractions, so it's been very well done. Yes, a very mischievous look indeed. I don't know what this little person gets up to. The black and white treatment has worked very well here, and it gives the image some depth. The crop again is very tight, and there's some detail lost in the shadows, particularly at the top of the image. The light areas in the background are a little bit distracting coming through the hair, so just be mindful of your backgrounds. Just bringing those pupils a little bit more to the center would make the image much stronger by not showing so much white of the eye and having the iris of the eye sort of hitting the side of the nose. This is a well-timed moment with quirky humor, well captured. Black and white treatment works really well. There's nice soft bokeh separating him nicely from the background. Just a little bit of attention to detail. Just there's hairs on the lapel of his jacket and on his shoulder. So just always go through your image very, particularly when you've got competitions and things coming up, and just looking for those attention to detail things, because they will help elevate your images. This has been a well-timed image to capture the driver's unique expression. Some of the detail in the blacks, particularly in his coat and his cap, have been lost. So just be mindful of when you're processing your images that you can use layer masks and things just to bring up that detail, so you can make the image not quite so heavy in those blacks. The cylindrical metal element at the right of the tram isn't straight, so it gives you a feeling that the tram is actually tipping over, and perhaps maybe that's what's happening. He's hanging on for dear life, so maybe he was trying to straighten it. I'm not sure. It could be also due to lens distortion too. So just, keeping an eye on those little attention to detail elements. This is the vibrant image which opens the door to the wonders of our natural world. The image would have been a lot stronger had the focus been centered around the eye and the antenna. The focus looks to be more behind the head and on the leg of the bee. These images are, very tricky to do, but some of the detail that was actually sharp was actually quite incredible. So just keep working on what you're doing, and just make sure you nail that focus. This is a solid portrait of this man. You've done well to light under the brim, because quite often you get a lot of shading underneath the brim and you can't see the person's eyes. The black and white treatment also works well. So maybe increasing the contrast would have added a little bit more depth to the image. It's a little bit flat. And there is a highlight on his mustache just underneath his nose to the right, which is a little bit distracting. So that's also an easy fix too. But there's a good room around around the image, so it just gives it a little bit more than just being sort of very cropped tightly up underneath his chin. This is a really well-balanced image capturing the personality of this person. The subject is well lit, and the sky in the background, in terms of its detail, has been well handled. The landscape and the background looks incredibly epic, and it would be interesting to see a wider shot incorporating more of it into the image to give it some context. This is a great example of a creative portrait with good use of colour and styling. The makeup is intriguing, but it is competing with the bare skin for attention, which makes the image feel a little bit unresolved. Perhaps a continuation of the treatment towards the chin would have given the image more cohesion. There is some lost detail under the right eye, perhaps from softening, some cloning at the top of the head to blend the straight hairline, which looks like it could be from an extension, would have been helpful. Some spot removal for the makeup and the hair would also be beneficial, just tidying up those little details. You're on a really cool path with your styling and the concept of what you're doing, but just keep working on your attention to detail. This is a very bright, vibrant image. The focus is sharp, and the background bokeh frames this young person very well. There are some stray hairs around her eye and her chin that could be addressed, as well as the dark area between her neck and her hair. The crop again is very tight. Hair like that needs space, and because it's so voluminous and fabulous, including more of her shoulder and décolletage would have given the image more balance. The mascara and her makeup looks a little bit overworked in terms of its post-production, which gives a little bit heavy given the fresh face look of the image. Great expression and the shallow depth of field helps to keep focus on the subject. Helps keep our focus on the subject. The white highlights of the shirt are very bright and are a bit distracting. Perhaps a slight movement in position here to the right so that the left hand isn't giving the appearance of touching the hat. Cloning out the letters on the pillar and the white dot on his left to the left of his pocket would also help just with those attention to details and elevate your portrait. Try including the audience more if you're doing portraits that have kind of a documentary feel or are telling a story, so it gives the viewer a bit more of a sense of who they are and what it is that they're actually doing. This is a really well constructed portrait. The subject has an endearing expression and has connected well with the photographer. The coolness of the colour palette frames beautifully the warmth and delight in the child's eyes and skin. There are a couple of black dots on the child's face that would be an easy fix to clone out, and just look at balancing the background as it is light on the left and dark on the right. So perhaps make a choice between the two, either go light on both sides or dark on both, just to give it a bit more balance. But well done. This is a great example of an environmental portrait. The repetition of the blues throughout the image gives it great cohesion. Your eye has the freedom to roam around and take in all the details, and it really shows this man in his workspace. So well done. So congratulations. This was an outstanding image. The impact of the image is in the contrast between the two birds. You have the elegance and composure of the bird on the left, and everyone has that one crazy friend on the right. There is detail in the feathers. The highlights have been well handled. The background is suitably soft, which really sets the birds apart. So The highlights and everything have been well handled, and there's fabulous detail. So congratulations, well done.
I would, yes, absolutely.
Right, so I'll hand them to you and people will come up and you just shake their hand.
Oh, great.
Yeah. Okay, so accepted father of the bride, Dennis Chang.
Well done. Congratulations. That's all right. Pleasure.
Next one is frazzled, which is me. Yes. Miss Bumble, Alan Moore. John, Jan Bogue. He's not here. What's up, Toby Mears? I think he's not here. New Zealand girl, Francesca Davies. Mia, Janet Munnings. Portrait of a busker, Raywin Wright. Yeah, that's right. Boy from the back streets, Alistair Phillips. The barber and this beloved chair, Desmond New. He's not here. And an unspoken bond by JK. Not here either. Yeah, it's a shame. Yeah. And a big thank you on behalf of the CPS members in the committee.
Oh, thank you
you.
so much.
Okay.
That's very kind of you to do that.
It's all right.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Now, JK, would you like to talk about your photographs, please? He's not there. No. Sorry? Alistair. Yes. Alistair, yes.
Thanks, John. Taken last year in Jakarta, Indonesia, where I was there for a week. Well, I was in Indonesia for a month and a half, but in Jakarta for a week. In the back streets, yeah, just an amazing country, so friendly, incredible. Majority Muslim, so I thought to myself before I got there, well, I'm going to have a tough time doing portraits, but not at all. They loved it, and yeah, lovely people. Thanks.
Thank you. Next one down. Raywin. No. Janet.
This was a young girl in London. She was 16 years old and she wanted her photograph taken for her portfolio. So I just took her into the garden and told her to flick her hair in front of herself and then flick her hair back. And she just started laughing. So I immediately just took a photo. So It's done in natural light and straight out the camera.
Thank you, Janet. Francisca, not here. Toby's not here. Jan, not there. Ellen.
Yeah, I can't remember where I took this, but I think it's quite dramatic. Yeah, I like the look.
Just a chance one, a lucky one, and I don't know what I was doing. Probably I was a bit off skew, but the tram wasn't. Dennis?
Right, I was the second shooter at a wedding, and it was a good wedding because I think the guests and everybody involved has enjoyed themselves, which actually makes taking pictures a lot easier. It's also great that they kind of ignored me, which is fantastic, until, of course, the father of the bride says, "Ah, there you are." So, yeah, so it was, it's good times, and I'm really glad I got the picture. Thank you.
Thank you, Dennis. Now, the next meeting, Wednesday the 29th, we have at 7 o'clock, we have the progress of AI, and Jeff Cloak will be speaking. And at 8 o'clock, he will continue to speak on our, I guess it's AI again. So there's a big program coming up for that. Jeff comes from Timaru. He's been up here before, so he should be interesting to speak with. MDC closes. MDC number 4, 31st of May, and it closes. The subject is fleeting. Now, you all have Diana's program each week, and from there on, just have a look to see what she said about further interest in the weeks to follow. Thanks for opening, Chris and Alistair. Meeting and greeting, Dennis, and for the sound and projection, Gordon, Andrew, and Alistair. Thanks, guys. And for supper coordinators, Chris and Judy. And that's all for tonight, folks, and we invite you to next week's meeting. Good night, safe home.